What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are here with another edition of Overthinking MTG. This is number 70. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it, and let's take a look at a random magic card. Okay, and today we are looking at. Oh, let me actually hit the random card. There we go. Stampeding Elk Herd. Okay, so this is from Dragons of Tarkhir. It is a common. It is a 5/5. Casting cost is 3 generic green green. It is a creature elk. Yeah, we definitely have some baggage around elks these days, but let's you know what? This elk didn't know what elks would become, so let's not hold that against it. All right, and this particular elk is formidable. So whenever stampeding elk Stampeding Elk Herd is the whole name. Yeah. So whenever Stampeding Elk Herd attacks, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. Huh, I like that. So it's a 5/5 for 5 elk, which is an interesting creature type. You know, it's not a beast. It's not. It's okay. It's an elk. Neat, I guess. Um, Actually, I'm just realizing. I think so. Part of the reason I'm giggling about the fact that it's an elk, for those who haven't been playing recently, this past year there was a card called Oko Thief of Crowns. For the majority of you, I know you're like, oh my goodness, why is he bringing that up? It was a planeswalker that was very durable. It was almost impossible to get rid of, and it had a +1 ability on it that could turn any permanent into on the board, any permanent or no, it's any creature or artifact into a 3/3 elk without any of its abilities. So it's just primo removal, and it just happened to turn stuff into elks. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the Legacy World Championship this past year was actually won by somebody using that ability on their own Black Lotus and punching their opponent in the face with a 3/3 elk. That happened. Like, anyway, so yeah, because that card is just way, way, way too good. So that's my association with elks. So when I see elks, that's on a magic card. That's what I think of, as I'm sure many of you do as well, because there was just Oko was the only topic for a while there. It was just absolutely everywhere. So anyway, so elks now have a reputation in Magic that I know was not ever intended. Okay, so anyway, so Stampeding Elk Herd. We're not talking about 3/3 removal elks. We're talking about 5/5 elks um, that are apparently a whole herd, despite the fact that the creature type is only elk. Well, of course, plural creature types would be ridiculous for a whole host of reasons. But the thing about this card that I really dig is the Formidable mechanic. Now, I wasn't around in Tarkir. By all accounts, I hear that it was a great set. It was a great story. It had a lot of fun stuff going for it. Everything that I've seen from Tarkir, I really enjoy. The idea of a plane that has multiple timelines. So when you're in the cons of Tarkir universe, the humans kind of run the show, and dragons, I believe, are extinct. Yeah, I believe they're extinct or like nearly extinct. Like they're a non-factor. The humans are in charge, and then Sarkhan goes ahead and wrecks everything and brings the dragons back. And then there's in Dragons of Tarkir, it's the dragons actually are the dominant species on the plane, and the humans are kind of this like this relegated subclass. Like that's interesting. That's a cool twist. The idea of doing this kind of Back to the Future, then and now time travel story is pretty cool. That's a unique way, and then it also fits within the confines of a Magic set in kind of a neat way. So I dig that. It works. The blocks in a way that you can enjoy multiple worlds on the same world. I think that's clever. I like it. Anyway, so in this particular case, Formidable was apparently a mechanic that was around during Khans of Tarkir, or Dragons of Tarkir rather, which makes sense actually. If it's the world in which the dragons have taken over, the idea of being physically formidable, yeah, that fits. That is what, yeah, that makes good sense. And so the way that it works is whenever the creature attacks, well, so in this case with Stampeding Elk Herd. Now I know in a lot of cases they use keywords like formidable, like landfall, like heroic, where it's a keyword simply to make it easier to search for, like on, as I understand it anyway, on like card databases like Gatherer, like what we're looking at here. If you want to, you could do a search for formidable, and you could find cards um, that'll have the keyword formidable on them. Just like Imogen here, she's very formidable. Um, and what that means is In this particular case, Formidable works whenever Stampeding Elkhart attacks, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, um, they all get trampled. So they don't make them any bigger, but basically once you've proven that like you got enough just meat on the board, you just gotta swing in and make the hit. Um, and you just need the trample to put you over the edge and actually make it a killing blow. That is there. So I gotta say, actually, the design on this card I think is really solid. It's a 5/5 or 5, just right on curve. It's just rock solid, just fits right in. Nothing wrong with that. It's a decent mid-range creature. And then on top of that, it also provides kind of this like quasi soft overrun effect later in the game. Now, and it's a common. This isn't super powerful. This is not Craterhoof Behemoth. This is not Endray's Forerunners. It is kind of the common version of something like that, where if you have a big swarm, um, and you have a couple of really, really big creatures, they just get trample. And you know what? Sometimes you just need trample. That's really, really huge. Now, the cool thing is, okay, no, no, no. The other thing that I was double checking the wording on this because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't. There were two different ways that this could have been written out. One is that the idea is it could be formatted as a triggered ability, which it is, or it could be formatted more like a static ability. And so fortunately, it's a triggered ability. So what ends up happening here is whenever Stampeding Elk Herd attacks, so the moment they attack, the board gets checked. If the power on the creatures is 8 or higher, everything gets trampled. Now, at that moment, somebody could blow up Stampeding Elk Herd. Somebody could, um, once that ability has resolved, I should say, then now everything has trample. You could kill Stampeding Elk Herd. You could reduce the power below 8. At that point, it doesn't matter. They've already been given trample. So if you can reduce the power or destroy Stampeding Elk Herd, you need to do it in the pre-combat main phase until or at the beginning of combat before they declare their attackers. The moment they declare their attackers, whoosh, that's it. You got nothing. All of a sudden they all get trample. Now, if you can deal with the whole swarm, whatever, but if you need to use spot removal to prevent an overwhelming hit and allow your chump blockers to chump block, then you need to kill this thing in the pre-combat main phase. The moment they trigger attackers, everything gets trampled, and they get trampled till the end of the turn, regardless of what happens. Now that said, if you can interact with, I believe the way this works, and I'm going to go ahead and put an asterisk on this, that I might be wrong on this one. Like, I'm not 100% confident, but I believe that the way that this would resolve is when the I believe that what happens is so I declare my attackers. I'm swinging with everything, including Stampeding Elk Herd. Because I meet the condition, the ability triggers. And so I believe that it checks that when you declare the attackers. And so you could reduce the power below 8 afterwards, and it doesn't matter because the ability has already established itself. Now, I'm tempted to, I may be wrong on that, so I'm going to go ahead and let's scroll on down. So rulings. On the 25th, if a creature you control with power less than, if you control a creature with power less than 0, use its actual power when calculating the total power of creatures you control. For example, if you control 3 creatures with power 4, 5, and -2, the total power of creatures you control is 7. Huh. That's interesting. Some formidable abilities are activated abilities that require creatures you control to have total power 8 or greater. Once you activate these abilities, it doesn't matter what happens to the total power of creatures you control. There it is. Okay, cool. So I was correct on that. Yay. Other formidable abilities are triggered abilities with an intervening if clause. Okay, now we're getting into some legality here. Okay, so such abilities check the total power of creatures you control twice. Once at the appropriate time to see if the ability will trigger, and again as the ability tries to resolve. If at that time the total power of creatures you control is no longer 8 or greater, the ability will have no effect. What? Oh, got it. Okay, no, so in that case, I was actually mistaken. Because in this particular case, this formidable is not an activated ability. This particular one is a triggered ability that has that intervening if clause. And so what that means is that little intervening if clause is an interesting detail. And to be honest, this is the first time I'm hearing those words, but I'm familiar with the concept. like for example, if I try to target one of your creatures with a removal spell and you cast a spell that gives it hexproof, like so you just grant your creature hexproof or shroud very quickly. Um, what ends up happening is my spell is countered. But the reason for that is because of that intervening if clause. So when I cast a spell, it checks to make sure that okay, I'm targeting a decent target. I'm targeting a, I'm casting a Doom Blade. I'm targeting a non-black creature. Okay, cool. But the moment, like the moment you slap hexproof on it, all of a sudden, when the spell tries to resolve, it's just going to do a quick little okay, we're still targeting a good creature, right? And if the answer to that is yes, cool, thing dies, we're good, and moving on next thing. If we're not good, like oh wait a minute, that thing has hexproof, I can't target that. The spell is countered and it well fizzles, as we like to say. So yeah, so that's how that works. And so in this case, it's the same effect where once you declare your attackers, so I was mistaken. That asterisk was appropriate in this case. So you swing with absolutely everything. Stampeding Elkird's ability triggers. It's on the stack. You have a total of 8 power on the board. I then cast my Doom Blade that I forgot to cast during my main phase, because let's be honest, I'd rather do it that way anyway, just to be safe, at least if I'm playing on Arena. And I'm going to go ahead and blow up your Stampeding Elkird. So I'm going to go ahead and kill that. And now all of a sudden you have 3 total power on the board. So when the ability tries to resolve, it's going to go ahead and check the board again, and we realize, hey, wait a minute, we don't have power 8 or greater anymore. This isn't, we shouldn't be going off, and poof, it doesn't. Now in that particular case, the impact is probably going to be significantly less if you're down to, if you drop from 8 to 3 power, because, you know, a 2/2 and a 1/1 or a 3/3 having trample is probably not going to be as big of a deal, if this isn't actually in the fray. But all the same, um, yeah, that is how that works. So I gotta say, it's because it's a triggered ability. It's got that intervening if clause. That's interesting. I didn't know that distinction. So we learned something new today. Hooray! Cool, cool. Yeah, guys. So thanks so much for hanging out. This has been a lot of fun. Um, yeah, this is an interesting one. Stampede Yellow Card. We got deeper than I expected on this because it is kind of a weird little, limited common. I say limited because that's really where this, I'm sure, saw the majority of its play. There probably weren't too many constructed decks running something like this because usually, like, a lot of times you see common cards that are weaker versions of rare cards, and this has that feel to it. Like I have no doubt that there was a better overrun effect that maybe that maybe was like a sorcery and it also gave everything +3/+3 or something like that. In addition to the trample, that kind of stuff exists all the time. So I have no doubt that that was the case here. Um, yeah, so it's a decent card. In limited, I would absolutely grab something like this because if I'm trying to play a mono green, having just a rock solid 5 drop that can really help push my squad over the edge, if it synergizes with what I'm doing, nothing wrong with that. All right, guys, this has been a load of fun. So these videos, Overthinking MTG, I say videos are also available as podcast, so you can do just audio only if you prefer. Um, or you can actually see me and my cat who is hamming it up. She's upstaging me pretty hard right now. She's just chilling in the foreground. So it's she's the star of the show. I'll go ahead and just put the camera down. And so if you're wondering what the heck's going on, feel free to come on over to YouTube and check out Imogen. She is front and center, all up in your face. And if you'd like to put her in a text box as an emoji, you can do that over on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhocks42. If you have Twitch Prime, you can actually go ahead and give a sub over there, and that gives you access to our level 1 emoji, which does happen to be Imogen's face. So anyway, yeah, we have a lot of fun over there. I stream most mornings at 5:30 a.m. Eastern time, or at whatever time that is where you are, which is hopefully not 5:30 a.m. All right, guys. Thanks so much. You're the best. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you next time.